Hi, this is Blinky, broadcasting almost live from the Boscoyo Broadcast Studios. You're listening to the second season of the Professional Triers podcast. Oh, yeah! Remember to like us on Facebook and subscribe to us on YouTube and Apple Podcasts. And now here are your hosts, the Professional Triers.
Hello, everyone. Behind the scenes videos are kind of really important. I think it's a good way to dive into each individual's displays and get a behind the scenes of how they set the show up. And what's the best way to do it than to kind of share these videos with you guys, and we can all learn a few things, I think. So for the new Triers workshop, we're going to try something kind of new. We're going to do these behind the scenes kind of videos and interview people that are sharing their behind the scenes videos. My host, and hopefully going to be host for a little while, is Brian. How you doing, Brian?
I am doing wonderful. How about yourself?
Yeah, I'm doing great. Happy congratulations on your Chief win, by the way. I think it's worth mentioning.
Woohoo! Heck yeah!
Enjoy your 1 year.
Yeah, you got your 1 year.
I had to shut my man cave door a few times because I didn't want to see my kids, or I didn't want my kids seeing me crying. So it was a very long wait, and every time I watch another video, I'm just like, oh god. So
That's
I got
intense.
my conference championship shirts in, and I'm getting ready to order my Super Bowl shirts. So I spent too much money for the championship. I didn't save anything back, so I gotta get some funds.
Yeah.
I'll be selling stuff here soon.
Well, I'm sure you got some old merchandise when they were close before or something.
No, I got a ton.
But so for today's episode, we have Tony Bigda here. Everyone knows Tony Bigda. I mean, I think he kind of makes his name for his cutouts, the train, and just being kind of an all-around helpful guy in the community. I think I see you're one of like the first 3 people to post on a lot of things nowadays. You're very helpful, which is great. And I'm so glad to have you on the show. Thank you for coming, Tony.
Thanks for having me on, guys. I appreciate it.
Once again, the Professional Triers Holiday Lighting Show has raised the bar, teaming up with another awesome sponsor, Zazzle, to provide you, our VIP listeners, with some cool, awesome, one-of-a-kind Professional Triers gear, including the Hot or Not shot glass, the Blinky Flashy Lowdown notebook, the Professional Triers Blinky Gear beer stein, the ever-so-popular David Peace Not a Vendor t-shirt, the must-have Robert Petty Make Rob Great Again t-shirt, the one-of-a-kind Jordan Nash
Do you like my decorations?
t-shirt, and of course the must-have Professional Triers Blinky t-shirt, and much, much more. You can even create your own one-of-a-kind Professional Triers gear. So go to trierswag.com, that's TRIERSSWAG.com, and get your Professional Triers gear today.
So Tony, tell me a little bit more about yourself. So, where you live and, kind of fun little tidbits like that.
I live in Winter Haven, Florida. It's about 30-40 minutes from Orlando. That's why you usually see me meeting up with people at Walt Disney World, because they say they're coming and I go over and meet up with them and meet new people, which is cool. I have a wife and a son, and we've been doing a display this will be 37 years.
Incredible.
Wow.
What kind of display do you have? Like, is it mainly pixels, like most people are kind of going to, or because you've been doing it so long, it's got to be such a mix?
It's like 70% cutouts, and I'd say 30% show LEDs, pixels, and incandescents.
Wow. And like with the, a lot of detail too, all the cutouts and stuff like that. And it's kind of its own little amusement park or its own Disneyland too, right?
We tried to do something different. I think a lot of people think you can't do a static show and a light show together, and I kind of set out to prove them wrong. And I like to try to make it a mix, and it gives a little bit of everything for people to enjoy when they come.
Mm-hmm.
And there's not a lot of people that do that, so that's what I try to do.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Well, I think you also have, we'll get into it, but you also have little aspects of it that a lot of people don't even have or even think about. Like, a lot of kids go to their shows and they want to ride, their objects, the props and stuff. And you kind of make some props too that are, you take that into account of your audience too, right?
Well, there's a few things that can be ridden. I mean, the general audience doesn't ride them.
Yeah.
My son and the neighbors ride the carousel. The little girl across the street rides in the train, and the Ferris wheel. If I built a seat that could hold it, it would spin my son around on it.
Sweet.
So, yeah, so that's kind of, I mean, how long? 30 years?
37.
37. That's incredible. So you've seen a lot of advancements in this hobby, a lot of changes.
The first year that we did the display, my dad did it the year I was born.
Wow.
So I was born in December 82. The first year's display was December 83. He said that I didn't sleep much, so that's when he started building stuff in the basement. So, and then we did it at his house for about 27 years.
Mm-hmm.
And about 10 years ago, we started doing it at mine.
And was it kind of modest back then at your parents' place, or, you know, at your dad's house? And then kind of once you got your own place, you kind of sprawled out?
No. My dad's house was the most extreme house.
Oh, wow.
In Western Massachusetts for many years.
Oh, okay. Yeah. You're from the New England area. Yeah.
So yeah, he was building like I don't know if you've seen the duck bike where the 5 ducks are riding the bicycle pedaling.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
He actually built one of those back in 86 or 87.
Okay.
And we ended up getting rid of it. And then when we moved down here, he said, "Hey, I want to make that again." So we built another one down here.
So kind of
building crazy stuff for a long time. Kind
of a pioneer in the hobby, really.
I would think so. I mean, not a lot of people know who he is because he's not on Facebook, but he works hand in hand with me every day building this stuff.
Yeah. Well, sometimes you have to go back into the older, forums and news groups and stuff like that to find that kind of stuff, and it's amazing.
I don't really look. We just kind of bounce ideas off each other.
Oh no, you guys definitely did. I'm just saying that for somebody like me that wants to find that information now, that's the only place you're going to get it. It's not. We need your mindset into the new generation, and you see that.
We need like a mechanical group on Facebook about stuff.
There you go. Yeah, you and JR should get on that. You guys should do some kind of mechanical group and you get the engineering aspect of the hobby going.
Yeah, he was talking about doing a podcast talking about that stuff. So I don't know what he's gonna do.
That'd be pretty cool. Speaking of engineering and stuff like that, you got a lot to that in your display. So let's kind of get into the first video here and kind of showing on your roof how you kind of have to engineer things on your roof here. So.
Guys, it's Tony here coming to you again, this time from the roof. So a lot of questions are always asked, not just to me but to everybody. How do I put things on my roof? Well, like my arches, you can see it's really simple. It sits in the ridge line and that's all it is wired up. I've got a hook installed in the soffit board underneath where that attaches to, and then they run over to my frame that holds my star. They've been up here a few weeks, so they need to be tightened up, but it's really simple, and honestly there's nothing much on those to grab. Control boxes, they just sit up here. All right. Now this frame is a modified version of Richard Holdman's that instead of sitting on the peak, I have it sitting sideways. And what it does is it unbolts, folds up, and I carry it down off the ladder. But all it does is just sit here with sandbags. All right. And then, like this is where my Santa sits. All right, you can see it's wired to the star frame too. Sits here. I'll put some sandbags on there, and then there's a lag bolt that bolts it into the soffit in the front. I don't fall into the don't pierce the house group. Honestly, Santa's like 150 pounds of wood and metal, and I'd rather put a hole that I can fix than to have it fall on my son's head. All right, and then we've got the faces. All right, it's a 2x4 with pieces of wood cut to the angle of the roof. Again, it's bolted into the house. Nice and stiff. Don't have to worry about it moving. Could I do it with sandbags? Sure. I'm not sure if I'd trust this. This is a lot heavier than typical coral face. Angle irons bolted to the 2x4. And then in the back, see that? I'm not sure I would trust that for the whole thing though. And also, this is where the upright bolts onto for the reindeer that are flying up. Hey guys.
So yeah, that's
very cool.
Very cool. Thank you again. Thank you, Tony, for sharing these videos with us.
Yeah, no problem.
A cool series to kind of show. So
I know that's always a big topic, is how to put things on my roof.
I imagine there's a lot of challenges coming from, everyone's got their own challenges. I got a lot of wind and stuff like that. And I'm kind of interested in your own challenges here. But like, what wires use? What are you using as far as the wire? I kind of had a note about that.
It's like drop ceiling wire from Home Depot. You get it 500-foot spool for, I don't know, less than $10, and it holds up really good. Doesn't break. I use it a lot. So
it disappears. I mean, like I thought it was like fishing line at first, but then you get close to it and it's a lot thicker. So yeah, that's great. That's a really good idea. So I'm taking a note of that for my own self. I got a lot of things I need to hang. So
I like it a lot better than like paracord or fishing line.
Paracord's like so unpredictable.
Paracord stretches out. The stuff doesn't.
Yeah.
You know what the tensile strength is on that? Or probably doesn't even have one.
I'm not sure, to be honest, but it holds up a drop ceiling in a house. I mean, it holds up quite a bit.
Yeah, exactly. And then the control boxes. I mean, like a lot of people spend a lot more time on like building these. Like honestly,
they just sit there.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's perfect. And like I want to mention also because it wasn't mentioned, but I do see for your house outlines, use EMT, and then you zip tie your what are those pixel bulbs?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. It's just EMT with pixel bulbs.
6-inch spacing?
That's 12.
12. Okay. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. I wish I would have gone smaller, but that was 12 at the time. What happened is I bought those for the old house before we moved, and I got here and I had them, and I had just bought a brand new house, and I was like, well, what can I do to make these stretch the house?
Exactly.
So I used what I could.
What viewing distance do you see, like for your audience? What is the farthest distance or the minimum distance, really?
The roof where you see those arches is probably at least 100 feet.
Okay, so that's perfect.
Yeah, so it shows up nice.
I mean, a little bit denser would be nice, but honestly, that's going to create a great effect in itself. I'm just trying to paint a better picture for.
It doesn't show the whole house effects as nice as I would like, so maybe I'm going to change it in the future, but it works for right now.
How do you like the EMT? I know a lot of people kind of choose in between PVC and EMT.
I like the EMT, and I keep it. I make 20-foot lengths. I have a spot in my garage where I have those $5 hanger brackets for bikes from Harbor Freight, and they just go up on the roof in the corner of the garage, and it's an area I would never use anyway.
Yeah, that's a great idea. And 20 feet would be so convenient. That's like basically for my own house, that's like 5 pieces.
That's like you see, like I have like the my house is like this on the peak. and it's like 19 feet from like corner to corner. So it's one whole piece, one whole piece, one whole piece, one whole piece.
Nice.
Make storage, installation, everything so much easier.
Yeah, so all I gotta do is have a helper on the ground, and I'm on the roof, and just click, 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 put the whole roof together.
And kind of speeding along, your wooden frame. Now, you mentioned somebody that kind of started that wooden frame. What was the frame that you have here?
Oh, that was for the star.
Yeah, for the star.
That was based on the design that Richard Holman had for his star on his roof
Richard, okay.
years ago. But his was two pieces he screwed together, and I made mine with lag bolts. I just loosen up the lag bolts, and the whole frame folds together. So the pieces are different lengths, and they all fold together, and I carry one piece off the roof.
I love lag bolts, man. There's just so many uses for them. I use them to secure props to the ground sometimes. You get a long enough lag bolt, it works.
Oh yeah, I've done that when I've ran out of the big galvanized nails. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, many uses for that thing. And then
I have the frame for Santa.
Yeah, so I wanted to get to that too. You kind of focused on bolting on it and bolting your house. But you made the most important thing, and I want to emphasize this more than anything else, is when you're putting anything on the roof, your house, safety is the most important thing. It's the safety for your audience, safety for yourself and your family. At the very end of the day, you need to get back home and you need to have dinner with your family. So, so the idea of, bolt or not bolt, it's a sad subject to even get to that point, because it's all about safety. And if you have to bolt, that's what you got to do.
It's not through the shingles. It's into the soffit. It's an easy enough place where if I wanted to pull the trim off and replace it after, I could. Yeah. But it's more important for it to be safe, because it's not. If it was a coral snowflake, it might come down and cut you. But something like a 3D plywood sleigh with Santa and motors in it, can be quite dangerous.
Yeah.
It's too easy for us to get kind of lazy with certain things. And with props like that, like you said, coral, you can be a little bit, but when you're building these kind of engineering feats and marvels that we'll get to in a second here, it's all about strength and making sure that they'll, in your audience, you got to think about them.
Yep.
Taking up a lot of time, bro. I want to hear from Brian. Sorry, Brian.
Oh, no problem. I was looking for an opening. So with your Santa and your Santa sleigh, how do you suspend the deer?
We'll get
off the roof.
What happens, Brian, is Santa's sleigh sits in a cradle in the edge of the roof there, and it elevates him off the roof, and it lets him look like he's flying over the house. And then the reindeer, he's got a picture here.
Oh, there we go.
And actually the bed frame, that's all bed frames that are picked up.
Oh, now I see it. Okay.
So when you have Santa fastened and you have the other piece fastened in between, it makes it nice and stiff. And you can see I run some more wire up to the frame again, and it makes it nice and stiff.
Yeah, no.
Okay. Yeah, because I went back onto your Facebook page and was watching a video just to kind of refresh my memory, because I've been busy today, and I saw that and I'm like, how in the heck is that suspended like that? So yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, the whole idea was to make it flying over the display without actually flying. And I actually used the frame that holds the singing faces on the roof, doubles as the anchor point for the reindeer.
Yep.
What is the reindeer made out of?
It's all plywood.
Plywood?
Yeah.
I can show this video next.
It's like 90% of what I use.
Yeah.
Now, how often do you have to, I mean, I guess it would depend on how wet you are in the wintertime, but how often do you have to replace it or redo it?
A lot of stuff, like my Snoopy, my ice skating Snoopy, hasn't been replaced since 1983. Wow. But like my reindeer renewed last year, and we tried going with this new type of wood. It didn't work. So now I'm actually making new ones because they got so trashed because we had so much heavy rain this year that I'm replacing them and doing them with a resin coating method that we came up with since we made them. So we're going to try something new.
Cool.
Oops, I'm sorry. We can start this video. Hopefully you can hear it.
Hey guys, you can see where Santa's up on the roof now. You can see that mount right there. Bolts into the fascia board soffit, whatever you want to call it. And then the sleigh sits on top. The reindeer are on angle iron. And you can see over here that it actually bolts to the frame that holds the faces. That bolts into the side of the house, and this sits over here with the rig that holds the penguins up. And believe it or not, it's actually really stiff. And this is the way it was last year, except I had a singing tree here instead of the penguins.
Very cool.
So how do you like?
Yes, I jumped the gun a little bit.
No, you're flowing perfectly. I'm curious, like, so you had Coro singing trees before in that spot, and now you're doing the. How do you like those are Matt Johnson penguins?
Well, they're Matt's in design. Those are I made those out of wood.
Holy cow! Well,
because he hadn't released them at that time.
Okay.
Thank you. Yeah, I really like them. They look cool and they were really popular.
Yeah, the only reason I mentioned Matt Johnson because of the quality. The quality looked amazing, but I mean, you did a great job.
Yeah, it was a lot of work trying to drill and put pixels in the wood.
Yeah, exactly. Because traditionally, a lot of your cutouts are more. You let the art really tell the story.
Yeah, that was something new. My wife's seen Matt's video January last year, and she had her heart set on penguins, and then they kept delaying the release, and I finally said, okay, well, it's time, it's go time. So I just decided to make them.
It's kind of like the Mary Poppins kind of theme, right? Because she dances with the penguins.
A little bit, yeah.
Do you feel like you kind of have like I feel like when I see your videos, you have like a little bit of a Disney World kind of expanded universe kind of a feel to it.
Yeah, well, I mean, we didn't used to do just Disney, but my dad was so adamant about wanting to try to get on Great Christmas Light Fight. So we ended up making a lot of Disney stuff, knowing that there was restrictions on other things, just in case. And that's kind of how we went about it.
Oh, that's smart.
So, yeah. Plan ahead.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's awesome.
The angle iron, the angle stuff, that's such a great idea. And like what you said earlier, you actually got them from mattresses, right? Or from bed?
Yeah, when I drive my kid to school in the morning on trash day, sometimes you just see full beds out on the side of the road and throw it in the back of the truck, and we use it instead of buying it.
I think that was one of the first things you posted something about that earlier, like last year, and I think that's when I first noticed you of using you had like a photo of you taking apart one of the bed frames, and I was just like, that's really great idea. That's all the metal you're gonna need, and that's perfect.
Well, what's nice is it's strong and it's heat treated, so it's a little bit of a pain in the ass to drill and everything, but it's good strong stuff when you get it all set.
Yeah, and it's important to have something strong and stuff like that for the props that are on the roof when you need to make those angles to hold plywood props. It's
Yep, absolutely.
So Brian, do you have anything else you want to ask about the kind of the house and the props that he mounts on the house before we go on to kind of his yard?
No, we can move down. That's fine.
Okay, so I want to go to the Ferris wheel video and kind of talk about your bigger props, because I think that's. I mean, I could do a whole episode on animatronics. I would love to do an episode just on animatronics with you and cutouts, because that's our own little 3-hour spiel we can get into. But I feel that's where I connect the most in your yard is all these animatronics and your Ferris wheel especially. So let's show that to everyone.
Okay.
All right, guys, let's talk Ferris wheel. The Ferris wheel is built with angle iron bed rails and then pressure treated 2x4s. The reason why it's got the brace in the middle is because it walks side to side. So you have the down rails just like the real Ferris wheel, and then I use blocks and shims in order to get it straight. The ground's not level, so we'll level it and then we'll level those to keep the wheel spinning true. My seats use pillow block bearings. I have pixels installed here. All ran off a slip ring. It's ran off a wheelchair motor that's controlled from a 12-volt power supply. And the last couple of years, I was running it off a Falcon differential board running through the slip ring. The new plan this year is I'm going to run it off an art stick and just power it through the slip ring if I can get it working. And then you can see here, wheelchair motor is about 60 RPMs. So I have a 1-inch pulley to a 10-inch pulley, which is a 1:10 to 1 gear ratio, which turns it down to 6 RPMs. So this will turn 6 rotations per minute. And then you'll see pillow block bearings here. Now, this is a big, giant, heavy industrial spool, and I can turn it with my pinky finger because I have these pillow block bearings mounted, and I can just spin it and spin it and spin it, and it'll spin all day long. So that's what makes it so it's easy for it to spin. And then brought the carousel base out today, and you can see we got power coming up for lights. These are what holds the horses. Got 3 Springer horses on here. And then you can see you got a whole big base here. And the base I showed you in the shed. You can see the motor and everything. You can see the plate. And that's why this can support kids to ride on. And then you can see right there, that's the brushes that send the power to the wheel. Let me know if you have any questions.
Yeah, it's really cool, man.
The engineering and the thought about that. I mean, there's a lot of stuff. You can't just go out and be like, I'm going to do that. I mean, you do, but there's more thought that comes along with it, because the safety.
That carousel was built in 1985.
Wow.
And we rebuilt it about 10 years ago. We restored it, but that was originally put together by my dad in 1985.
Wow.
And that motor was a big, he used to work at this this valve place that made big, huge valves. And it was a big wire feeder for the welder. And it just kind of walked out the back door one day.
Hey, when that happens.
so that's a really old prop. The Ferris wheel is only a couple of years old. I think that was 2016 we built that.
It's definitely another element to the display. I think it adds depth to the display. That's sometimes a problem with shows. They're kind of one-dimensional, and I think that kind of it gives it that 3D depth of feel to it. I really like it.
I mean, I like pixel shows and I appreciate all the work that goes into them.
Of course.
But if it's just a show and it's just song after song, I'm just like a little kid after. I'm like, okay, I've seen this. I've seen it. Okay, let's go somewhere else.
Yeah. And like the Ferris wheel's got so many pixels in it too, it looks like. And I can't even imagine the work that involved to getting those pixels through the metal like that, to drill the holes, the right spacing and everything like that. I mean, that's not just like pushing into Coro.
No, it's not. That was a lot of work for to be drilled out like that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's incredible. So getting to some technical things about that video, or slip ring. So I know what a slip ring is, but can you kind of explain what a slip ring kind of is for the listeners?
A slip ring is very similar to like a clock spring on a car. You know how you get like the power in your steering wheel and you can spin your steering wheel. So a slip ring is basically an industrial version of that. And what it does is it's got brushes in the middle, and it allows the wires to spin while being fed power and whatever out the other side.
Now you mentioned that you weren't going to do data this time going through that, because that kind of, you can't get a consistent. What's your reasoning for that? Basically, what
it seems like it'll work for a couple of weeks and then it won't work. Then it'll work and then it won't work, and it's just not. It's not good enough for me. I want it to work consistently. So, and I was adding pixels to my train, and I started talking to Darren, and he was like, well, you'd be a good test because you have more electrical interference in your yard than anybody else with all the motors and everything. So we decided to try it on the train and then the Ferris wheel, and they worked really well.
So you had good results with the wireless.
Yeah, it worked really good. It helped that I had Tom Stallings come to my house and set up my Wi-Fi for me.
We all wish we had a little Tom Stallings around.
Yeah, definitely.
Hey, he said, I'll come set it up for you. I said, okay, perfect.
That's awesome.
So that's the nice thing about this community is you get there's a lot of people that help, and especially down here. I've got like Ed Smith and Tom Stallings and Sam Robb, and everybody's real close to me. So I mean, I have a lot of people that are willing to come chip in and lend a hand.
Nobody's willing to come to Montana to.
JR owes you.
Yeah, there you go.
You can pull that card. You always have that card.
Yep, definitely.
He'd freeze his ass off too.
Just videotape the whole thing. It's its own ABC special.
Yeah. See how many layers of clothes he has on. But I got cold in Northern California. I got chilly there. It was a different kind of cold.
You did. Yeah.
I heard you guys were cold on reveal night.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
The whole week was a little bit colder than it usually is around that time. So.
Well, we were 65 degrees all month. Reveal night was 86.
Oh,
dang!
Wow.
And they had us wearing Christmas sweaters.
Yeah, I was gonna say you still gotta wear your winter attire.
Yep. So that wasn't fun.
No. So, Brian, do you have any questions about the Ferris wheel?
I did, and I started thinking about something else, and I forgot all about. Oh, so going to your 10-to-1 ratio, was that kind of a gradual? Did you try different pulley sizes, and then you found the best one, or did you just I got a 6-horse motor?
No, it's you can just kind of do the math on it and figure out kind of like what you want. 60, you don't want 60. The Ferris wheel spinning around 60 times a minute. I mean, that would be crazy. So I think it really comes down to it also comes down to what we can find that'll fit what we have laying around and cost too. So
right.
Where do you find most of your parts like that?
We find a lot of them on eBay.
eBay.
Like the pillow block bearings all come off eBay.
Wheelchair. motors?
Wheelchair motors come off eBay.
Wow.
Yeah.
How price range? Where those kind of land?
They're usually like $30-$40.
That ain't bad for that amount of power it has. Jeez.
The other ones that I use for my other things,
Mhm.
we usually get those for like $3 or $4.
Yeah, no, exactly. Your rotisserie motors and stuff like that. Yeah.
Yeah. So because we buy them in bulk, and we buy a lot at a time.
Nice.
Yeah, I was kind of surprised. 6 turns though per minute. I'm picturing that. That seems fast. Maybe I'm
It
told.
still is a little fast. I would have liked a 12-inch pulley instead, but that's what we found at the time.
Yeah.
That's what's on there.
I was doing the math while you're doing that, and then it came out this, and then you said 6, and I'm like, yeah, that's wow.
But you could, if you see in my videos, we spin our stuff a little fast.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have a fence like in front of my stuff. Like I have a light fence, but we have kids try to jump on stuff, while it's running. So I'm trying to make they have a little bit of hard time trying to jump on.
I kind of want to mention your train too. We unfortunately don't have a video of your train, but you've shared so many videos of those, so people can find those on Facebook and stuff like that. But like, how did you make that train? I mean, like, how did you get started? Looks like something that like you had to buy. You couldn't have made that yourself. I mean, that's just incredible.
It was my son. My son really likes trains, or he did at the time. He's really into Pokemon now, but train. He said, "Hey, Grandpa and Daddy, I want you to build me a train." And so we started looking into it. And I was looking at making one like Walter's, and I was like, "Well, it's kind of small for my yard." And then I think we were looking on YouTube or something. We found a video of this big train. We started doing some research, and we found the plans in the Popular Mechanics magazine, and kind of went from there. I mean, it was just like the base for it. We made a lot of modifications and stuff to the plans, but
no, that Popular Mechanics video, was that like so you took that design, and was it like a 1-to-1 scale, or was that Popular Mechanics something like a bigger train and you modified it for something?
No. It's the exact scale that the exact scale that we built, and that's like the skin with like the design with like the windows and stuff like that. The cow catcher in the front, and it has the basic plans, and we just kind of fit it to what we wanted to do. But it also, if you ever look at the magazines from like 1965, you should see the drive setup on it is, you just look at it and you go, that is never going to work. So
you definitely had to modify that.
Well, that's where we came up with the 2 wheelchair motors.
Okay.
So
it's kind of interesting. Those Popular Mechanic magazines, I remember in my auto shop, we had a bunch of those, and like you look through them and you look at what they make now, it's like some of the gold stuff that, inventions, are all the information's in those magazines. So
those magazines were really cool at the time. And I don't know if you've seen videos, but the Santa that gets pulled up to the roof in the corner of my house, that's from Popular Mechanics too.
Okay.
It's just some cool stuff on there, and it's just something neat to look through sometimes.
Yeah. I need to get some. You got to pick some good years out there and let me know so I can palm through some.
It's like everything from like 65 to 70 it's got some pretty cool stuff in it.
Perfect. I know where to look now.
But it just, it took us, we started in January, and we had it running around the yard in April.
Wow.
Which is really fast.
Yeah, that's incredible.
My neighbors all thought that I was pouring sidewalks in my yard for people to walk around the display, because I was building the track, and they thought I was making like the wood thing to lay sidewalks.
Yeah.
It was interesting to explain.
So with your tire, the tracks themselves, like, is that something that was also in the mechanics, or you had to kind of engineer that yourself?
The designs are there. but actually building it is a different story. It wants you to mark with chalk like a radius on the driveway, and it wants you to pull the wood into the radius and nail it together, which is never ever going to work.
Yeah.
So we actually made a jig. I got pictures of it if you ever want to see it. But we made a jig out of plywood, and we screwed like the railroad ties. They're 2x3s, and we used a router and cut slots in them, and we screwed them to the board in the radius, and then we would drag the board into the radius and then slide other ties over it and screw it together.
Wow.
When it comes out of the frame, then it's in the shape that you want.
Yeah.
So,
Ryan, do you have any questions about the train?
Well, I'm sitting there watching a video right now. So.
Yeah.
the train.
Yeah. Well, no, it's just a walkthrough. The train isn't out yet.
I feel like
it's a walkthrough that you did back 2 months ago.
I feel like it should be. It's almost like a steam train. It's so realistic.
Well, it actually had steam coming out of it for the taping.
Yeah.
I added a battery from a Caterpillar bucket loader to the caboose, and that ran the steam.
That's awesome. I bet that's gonna make great TV. I can't wait to see that episode. Congratulations.
No kidding.
On the show.
Awesome. I can't wait to see it myself.
Yeah.
I'm hoping I don't look like an idiot.
TV magic. You'll never look like an idiot.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, I guarantee I do.
Those editing magic people,
I don't know if you guys were at JR's. I don't know if they made him do anything stupid, but like she had us like dancing with Olaf and crap.
It's so great to be a part of it, and then seeing the final product on television. It's going to be a great experience.
Interesting.
Yeah. To say the least. Yeah.
Now, I think you've been asked this, and I think I even saw your answer to it, but just in case somebody hasn't, are there plans to add more cars behind the train?
We're working on something this year. It's going to be another train. It's not going to be like a full train. You ever seen like those hand pump carts?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Yeah. So what's going to happen is the battery only lasts so long. So the plan is, because we're anticipating being busy next year because of TV. So we want to have it where when the train's dead, it pulls off to the side of the track, and we can put the push cart on, and it runs around when the other one's charging.
Brilliant.
So,
no kidding.
And we think it's going to be Chip and Dale pumping the cart around the track, which should be pretty cool.
That is so cute and a great idea. I love that.
So that's something that we're working on. But I don't think I'd add any cars to the train, because the storage box. You'll see, I keep a storage box where the train sits on the track all the time, and it's already 4 foot by 12 foot.
Wow.
So if I wanted to add a car to the train, I'd be talking 16, 17 feet long.
We can get into storage right now if you want to.
That's fine.
Yeah. Brian, do you have anything? I'm sorry to move us along.
Nope. We're good.
All right. So this is going to be our last video. The storage, because I think
I thought you wanted to talk about the twig trees too.
Yeah, let's go to the twig trees. I'm sorry. Thank you. So let's go to the twig trees, because I love twig trees. I love just like applying something that, like, I talked to the last guest I had on How to Not. I talked about how his whole display basically was something you could buy at Lowe's, and he pixelates it, or even something that looks organic, like an existing tree, but it's plastic. You don't have to worry about it, not maintaining its shape every year. And putting it out there, it looks great when you pixelize them, or even just adding regular ink cans on them.
I'm not a fan of like the squared off Coro trees.
Mm-hmm.
It just, they just don't look like a tree to me.
Yeah.
So that's why I went with the twig trees.
Yeah, I'm starting to change it up next year too. I'm thinking of doing more twig trees and spinning spiral trees, and kind of dropping a lot of the pixel trees in general, just because for my yard, everything is, I'm adding so much more movable products, props and stuff like that. I'd rather have the audience get attracted to those things instead of just another, small mega tree pixel thing,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So we could go to the twig trees. Like I said,
Gets tough to say.
Talk about twig trees, which is always a big topic. Twig trees are awesome. They look really nice as a pixel tree. There's always lots of questions about it. Now, I don't like the stands that they come with. So what I do is I put a piece of rebar in the ground, and then they're all wired together. And if they weren't so close to the house, I'd probably put a pole to the ground. But all I do is I've got an insert in the house, concrete insert, sealed. And if I ever don't want it there, I just cover it up with some concrete and paint it over. See, all the trees are all wired together. Nice and straight. You'll never see the wire. And wired. And then another question I always get is do I wrap every branch? No, I don't. They're spiraled up. And then I just use the spiral tree model in X-Lights. These each have 125 pixels. The reason why I didn't do it with the branches is because they're really flimsy and they're really not meant to hold all that weight. And actually you can see I left the incandescent lights on here. Leaves a nice place to zip tie the pixels to. And you can't see them.
you're completely right. Those ink cans just disappear. Like you don't notice them until you mention them. And like you said, it gives them support for the pixels to be on, another area to zip tie.
Yeah, they just sit there instead of it just being like the wire, and then the pixels slip down. So, yeah.
And I like the idea of you doing a spiral, and it makes it really easy in X-Lights. You don't have to do a custom model or anything like that. So,
No, I've seen a few people wrap them, and I mean, maybe with the new 3D modeling, maybe it'll make a difference. But before, it didn't look any different than spiraling them. So, and I mean, they really do. When you get the pixels glowing off the white tree, they really do glow really nice.
Yeah, that's really cool.
I love the effect. It bounced, the lights bouncing off the white and everything like that. And the fact that it's just like these twigs and that's its own kind of texture and its own kind of area to reflect light off of, it makes a really good effect.
Yeah, it's a cool, and I just use it kind of like as like a background back there, because that's like the very back of my display. And I've got all my characters in front of it, but you can see like these trees doing all these like cool chase colors and everything over them and everything in the back.
Mm-hmm. And I like how you removed the stand and it made it really easy for you to put it up every year. I'd imagine those stands I don't know, I can't find one right now, but I've been playing around with a lot of them lately, and they're kind of just flimsy once you kind of take them apart every year and stuff. They don't get easier to put up every year.
I think I have like one or two just to like work on the trees in the garage. But other than that, no, I just cut the bottom off and slide it over rebar. That way I can just go over there with a tape measure, and I just hit all the rebar in and then just go slide the trees over it.
Yeah, that's great. The wire too and stuff like that to keep it all taut and extra little.
It's the same wire that's on the roof.
Yeah.
Any questions, Brian?
Yeah,
they're awesome.
Thank you, really Tony.
Good.
Brian's researching.
I'm in awe. Well, I got you up over here. I got us up over here. So
Jennifer says you're speechless. So
I see, because every time I look at somebody's display or they're talking about it and stuff, I mean, I know you just went through some winds here. Thank God everybody was okay when that tree came down.
Yeah.
I have wind like that all the time. So 50, 60 mile an hour wind. So when I look at somebody's display, I'm like, okay, is that going to hold up? Everything I have is all in concrete buckets. So if I went with this pixel tree that you guys are talking about, then I would do my concrete bucket with EMT within the concrete and then slide it over that and then have an anchor screw holding it in. So what goes through my mind because of the weather I have versus the weather that you have during Christmas.
Do not put rebar in the ground.
I have my anchor points as rebar. I use 3/8 rod.
Because those, if you put rebar in the ground and wired them down the way I showed you, they wouldn't move in that wind either.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Very cool.
Everybody's always got issues anchoring stuff. My stuff, it never moves. All my big plywood stuff, because I use 1/2-inch EMT. I cut it in half, I bang it in the ground, and I use EMT anchors on the back and screw it all together, and they don't move.
No.
Nice.
Yeah. Thank you for bringing up the environment thing, because everyone's setups are a little different. We all have our own challenges and stuff like that. And yeah, Brian, thank you for bringing up the wind. You just had the wind like crazy. And like, that's so not typical during your show, right?
Right. Oh, mine. Yeah. I have wind when my show's up. I mean, it's still up right now because of the weather that I've had, but 86 mile an hour wind. I had 2 mini trees fall down and half of an arch that came loose.
So that's not bad. I'd consider that wind.
Oh yeah. And JR, I was talking to JR about it. He's like, can you get some shots? And I'm like, well, I got to do a slight, of his megatree system, because that's what I have out here. And I mean, I had a star at the very top, which was my own fault. It's my own design. I didn't get his star mount, but it turned on me a little bit, and that's it. So
that's not bad. Now, the funny part about that tree is it withstood 120 mile an hour wind hurricane not that long ago, and then a little gust blew it over. What happens down here is it's really sandy, and when the trees get older, the roots actually like grow out of the ground. You can actually see the tree lift up, and that tree was doing that, and we didn't anticipate it. And,
wow.
Luckily, we got it. Luckily, it just damaged the porch. Because about 10 feet over, my wife and son were sitting eating dinner when it came down.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we got lucky.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's incredible. Yeah, that's scary. But thank God that, no one got hurt. And if it's going to happen, kind of have it happen now in the off season, right?
Yeah. Well, I don't know if you can tell, but that tree's like 40, 50 feet tall.
Oh yeah, no. It looked at least.
Tree.
It was wide too. That's the thing.
Yeah, it's huge.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't have to worry about any trees. I don't have a tree within.
Well, the Great Plains.
Well, when I bought this house, the guy planted like 5 oak trees like around the house. 3 in the front yard. They're not big enough where if they fell, they would even hit the house.
Yeah.
The one that was close was that one, and that's the one that came down. So
it's always the one that's the closest too. I don't know why.
Yeah.
It couldn't have been the one that I wanted to come down.
I know. I heard somebody in the comments being like, "Hey, was that the one that you wanted to come down?" Like, no.
Yep.
A little grumbling afterwards.
Oh yeah.
So we can go get last little video of the storage.
Okay.
So
excellent.
Keep that queued up.
Hey, so one of the most common questions I get is, where do you store all your stuff? It's a 12 by 20 foot lofted shed. The loft has stuff in it. This will have more when I'm done. The carousel is those 2 pieces right there and a piece in the corner. The airplanes are hanging top of the carousel. The train breaks down into 30 pieces of track, and it all stacks on top of each other. Basically, I have shelves over here all the bins. And you'll see here's the Ferris wheel base, and all the plywood stuff stands up in the middle of it. If you keep it straight, it won't warp and shed over summer. And basically, when I'm done, this will be floor to ceiling, front to back. But everything has its place.
Wow.
Yeah, that's incredible that you're able to fit so much in that little space. I mean,
Well, I have my shed. I have a second shed that has stuff in it. I have my garage. And I have my dad's shed that has stuff in it.
but
So,
definitely thought about how you're going to be storing everything, though. It almost feels like you build things based off of how it's going to be stored later, in a way.
we always think about that ahead of time. You know, I see a lot of people build something and they go, well, where am I going to keep it now?
Mm-hmm.
The only thing we kind of did that with was the Ferris wheel, because we found that on the side, we found the wheel on the side of the road and we built it. And then we figured out after that the wheel wouldn't fit through the door. So we had to figure out where it would store.
Well, that's a good problem. It's a good prop. So,
So yeah, it kind of, but you can see everything's kind of modular. It all comes apart. Like half the Ferris wheel is in one spot, half's in the other. The seats are in the ceiling. The train all comes apart and slips all together. So yeah, everything kind of. So the only thing that really doesn't have a storage spot is my train engine. I haven't found a place for it yet. It still sits in my garage. So
yeah, the everything's foldable too. I mean, I don't know. It's just not like you said. A lot of people kind of build the prop and then they kind of think about the solution, how to store it after. I know one of my first years in my house that I'm in right now, I definitely had one year where it was just kind of using what I had before and I knew how I was going to store it. And then the next year I kind of got, my eyes were a little bigger than my storage capacity. So then I had to figure out, my biggest solution thing was like, how I'm going to do it. So I built and bought a shed. And so now my thought process is storage too, but that's in our hobby. It's a surprising afterthought for most.
yeah, that's always a key. That's always a key for us. Like we build it to move it, to be able to put it together and store it all at the same time, because it's important.
And I also was thinking about warpage, and then you answered it in your video. The way you kind of have things stored, you think about warpage because plywood's gonna warp, right? It's gonna weather, I guess is the word, right?
Well, I could get more into that when we talk about plywood props, but I actually built a frame on the back of all of them too, out of fairing strips, and that's what lets me mount them in the yard and also keeps them straight, keeps them from breaking.
Yeah. Brian,
that's cool.
How's your storage solution, Brian?
It's out in the yard. No, I got a 34 by 34 garage, and as long as the wife's company car fits in one side of it, I got the rest of it to play with. So normally the small garage side, I line up all the mini trees and stuff. The matrix that I did this year, the 4x8 matrix, I don't know where I'm going to do that, but the 19-foot lights on the high plane sign, I did just hang that from the rafters. So it's up out of the way. And that's probably where a lot of stuff is going to go, because I have 11-foot ceilings in my garage. So a lot of stuff is going to go up, except for the concrete. The concrete bases will stay on the ground. But
yeah, I was going to say,
I don't like to fill my garage because that's also my workspace.
Yeah, I just keep moving stuff around and building more benches as I need it. So.
And like you said, like your wife's car has to go in the garage. That's the one stipulation mine has, is her car has to park in the garage and do whatever else I want as long as she can fit her car in her garage.
Yeah. That's her side. That's where she gets to park. So her truck has got to stay outside with my truck, but the company car gets to come inside. So
My the person that previously built my garage, he built storage like right in the front where if you on a truck like mine just doesn't fit. It's literally 3 inches.
He made it too short.
It works out perfect because then I that's my excuse. I need. Why would I clear up space for a car that doesn't fit?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Brian, do you have any other questions as far as storage?
No, I'm good.
He hasn't gotten to that yet, so he's not worried about it.
Oh yeah, he got to that point.
I'll find space.
I
got a bunch of plastic
do
shelves.
with the cement pillars or cement blocks.
That's one of the things I don't like about Florida. It's one of the few things I don't like is the fact that we don't have cellars. Because back home, if you had an 1,800 square foot house, you had an 1,800 square foot basement.
Yeah.
And so that was nice. We don't have that here. Brian, you must have a basement, right?
I don't have a basement. I have a 4-foot crawl space.
Oh, I figured you would have a basement up there.
No, we could have, but we opted out of it. We didn't want it. We didn't want the extra cost when we built and stuff. So we did. In hindsight, I wish I would have done a half basement.
Yeah.
But when we were building it in 2015, 2016, I wasn't thinking about having a light show.
Now you're wishing you did.
Now I'm kind of wishing I did because I just got done rearranging my man cave / office just to try to make more space to have a little workbench behind me to do the electronic stuff that I don't want to do out in the garage.
Yeah.
So,
it's important to have a good workspace so you can do that kind of stuff. When you want to go out and start soldering something, you have a clear space to do it.
Well, it's easier to solder when your hands aren't, shaking and it's cold and your breath is fogging up your glasses and yeah.
Well, that's when I lived up north. That's where I did all my work was in the cellar.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know half my family is from the North Andover, Massachusetts area.
Okay.
And so, yeah, when I go over there to visit them, it's amazing how like that area is literally just as big as the rest of the house.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they actually had an addition added onto it because my grandpa ran his whole business there, his whole accounting business down there. So they actually even borrowed further down there and kind of had extended rooms and stuff. And it's cool. I'm very jealous when I go there.
Yeah, see, I'm from Springfield area.
Okay.
So you must know where that is if you're from there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So this is much nicer down here.
Yes, exactly. I have to go over there in August, so it's going to be pretty intense as far as heat.
It's it's really cold during the winter and it gets hot and nasty during the summer.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So Tony, hey, I think we're end this here.
Okay.
Thank you so much for coming on and showing us your display, putting those videos out there.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah, appreciate it. I enjoy doing it and trying to answer some questions for some people. And those are always like really big topics, I would think.
Oh yeah, definitely mounting. Just a lot of things that we covered in this episode. I think mounting itself props. We have a whole Facebook group now dedicated to that. That's how important that subject is to people. Yeah. So.
No, I don't think I've seen that one, but
amazing display. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you so much for showing it off. And if anybody else would like to share some behind the scene videos, we'd love to have you on and interview you as well. I think this is kind of a fun experience. You kind of showing a little walkthroughs and then kind of talking to the people that put those videos together. And, it's nice to do these one-on-ones. It's a really great experience.
Yeah, it's
congratulations. Oh, sorry. Congratulations on the great Christmas light fight. Can't wait to see your episode. So
thanks. I can't wait to see it either and see JR's too.
Yeah.
See Brian on JR's.
Yeah, they're gonna pick him.
Remember the camera adds like 50 pounds if you see me. So
Same for me too.
I didn't miss any meals. So
Hey, what happened is we applied to be on a show just like JR did, and then we didn't get picked. So they actually told us we weren't on. We were supposed to be on next season, and then when you guys were at JR's house was when they called me and said, "Hey, we need you to fill in. Somebody's HOA won't sign off on the paperwork." So I told my wife when they called me, I said, I'm not going to eat until they get here.
Yeah. Yeah. I remember being at JR's house and I don't know, I read something and I was all like, the way you phrased it or something, I was all like, hey, is Tony going to be on the show? And JR was like, no, not this year. And I was like, oh, okay. And then it turned out you were. We heard literally maybe a day later we heard and we're like, oh, so that's pretty cool.
No, all of a sudden I was making all kinds of new stuff.
Yeah.
Right before the lights went on, and it was because I think he ran into the same problem. There was certain stuff he couldn't use because of copyright stuff. So they told us, you can't use this, you can't use this, you can't use this. And I was like, well, crap, the yard's going to be empty.
Yeah, you had a new definition to crunch time, definitely.
Yeah.
This was the first time in, I want to say 15 years that we didn't actually finish on our light time. It was November 30th, and we actually were working on a display up until the morning they came.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
I mean, it was running, not JR's. He was trying to get his running. Mine was running, but we were making changes and fine tuning things. And
well, we know the feeling.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, maybe you should add a matrix at the bottom of your mega tree. Oh yeah.
Yeah, we're hunting down channel problems. Let's just add one more element to the thing.
Is that what he was trying to do?
Yeah.
Oh man.
All in fun.
Yeah, it was a blast. It was an experience, and I had a great time.
It was a fun experience, and my audio guy was the same audio guy that you guys had.
What? That's awesome.
Oh, he's awesome.
Joe was awesome. Yeah.
He was on the first episode of Survivor. A little tidbit fact for you.
Oh, was he?
Yeah.
So he was he was here. So that was cool.
Yeah.
And we obviously we had a different crew than you guys did.
Yeah. It's all geography based, we learned and stuff like that. So
well, from what I understood is your guys had Chad.
Mm-hmm.
He'll have one family an episode. So then mine Ann will have one family an episode. So so they're not competing against themselves, I guess.
No, it's exactly it. Yeah.
So so that's the way it works out, unless there's a scheduling conflict or something, I guess.
It's always an exceptions, they still have to make an episode. So
I think Felicia explained a lot of that when they were talking to her on the podcast.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So
it was definitely cool. And I would definitely tell people it was a fun, memorable experience. And I know there's a lot of negativity that goes around on the groups, but it really was a really memorable experience. It was cool. And my son cried when the crew left because they were like his buddies,
Oh yeah. Yeah.
So
yeah, they're definitely a great group of people, and they make you feel like you're part of their family too, as well as you absorb them into yours. So it's when they say no, it's hard.
And even the I know you guys didn't have much experience with the people in LA, but the whole team was really awesome.
Yeah, definitely.
So I would tell people to do it. Yeah. It's definitely memorable and not something you'll forget.
Yeah. I'll definitely go and help somebody else set up. I'll never have one myself. So I got way too much front yard for that.
Yeah. That's perfect. So Brian's the traveling Great Christmas Light Fight setup.
So I'm the setup / gopher help.
Gopher. Yeah, he said you were walking around changing bulbs while he was walking around doing his spiel with her.
Oh yeah, me and Brian had to run around and make sure that everything was A-okay while they were walking through the display.
As they were coming through.
At that point, I said, screw it. What wasn't working? Wasn't working. And that was it.
We did run into one prop that we both had. Brian did his best of finding what he needed to make it work.
Yeah.
It was just one of those.
Yeah.
Fine. We heard JR's own words, I think, in our head, because he would have been like that too. He would have been like,
screw
there's
it.
a time, there's a place, and that's it. Go on.
Yeah.
Well, what happened is a set of lights went out in one of my oak trees.
Mhm.
I was just like, I'm not getting the ladder out. Not doing it.
Yeah. At that point, you're just like, I did have to sit behind one prop because the chain was binding up on the package. So as they were doing the after filming shooting of it,
Oh, you were sitting there holding
back there behind the prop, making sure the chain stayed kind of smooth going through. So I'm like, I'm part of this.
Hey,
if you see that video,
just remember, you don't want to throw Dave Peace under the bus, but just remember his door never works. His wife was pulling a rope all season.
yeah. Yeah, his book or whatever, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
The book, yeah.
Yeah, we'll have to have
a hard time saying it's his one wife power door.
His wiper, her what? Yeah, I don't know. I was gonna make a joke. I don't know.
It's it's all about the stuff and what we go through for people we'll never meet or never talk to that sit outside the house and watch it for 10, 20, 30 minutes, however long they stay. So that's what the enjoyment is.
Well, you live in Alaska or whatever.
Alaska. Canada.
We sit out in lawn chairs and actually like talk to people.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I'll make it like a 5-minute round trip with some candy canes. Okay, that's it. I'm going in. And that's with card hearts, wool socks, windbreak, ski mask. I mean, I look like a homeless guy going out there handing out candy canes.
Now we'll go out there and sit in lawn chairs, and because I manually run the train. The train isn't just hit a button and let it run, because it runs over the driveway and everything. So we're out there and I run it, and I'll stop it in the driveway and let kids take pictures with it and all kinds of stuff.
Awesome.
That's great.
Yeah, we sit out there and try to interact with the people.
Yeah.
Yeah, people don't get out of their cars. They might roll down a window, but that's about it.
So we try to encourage people to get out, walk down the driveway. You can experience a lot different walking around than you can just sitting in the car.
Yeah.
It goes back to the multi-dimensional kind of thing. It's kind of annoying to, have a display and the focus has to be this one little area that everyone's going to see. Well, not everyone's going to see that. And like, it kind of sucks to build something that it's built based off of the perfect view when it's just display's got more than that,
Mm-hmm. Well, some people have that spot and they have a good spot, and
True.
I have a pretty decent spot. We have good flow of traffic and everything, but I like to have people park down the street and just kind of walk around and walk down the driveway and enjoy it.
Yeah, I was really glad this year was kind of a warm weather for us. It didn't really drop lower than the low 60s, which is so weird. Nice. And so it was actually a lot of people. I had neighbors that just, they would typically drive, even though they're just like 5 houses down years before. This year was the first time where they came out, like they knew when the lights were going to come out, and I would see them go out and with boom boxes, walking up to the front of my house, and they would sit with lawn chairs and watch the show, at least the first watching. And that's when I got the idea of making sure to have speakers out. So now I'm going to make sure they don't have to have a boom box.
Well, if you see my videos, the audio is not dubbed.
No,
it's actually the audio playing outside, because it's a full experience. And the neighbors around it, actually, if we're not playing the music, they'll say, "Hey, how come the music's not playing tonight? We want to hear the music." So
I got a neighbor like that too. I got a neighbor that's like, she actually turns her FM to my thing, and I'm all like, it repeats every 30 minutes, and she's like, "Don't mind, I love it. It brings me in the spirit. I'm all for it." And she's like, yeah, so it's good.
That's awesome. So it's better to have neighbors that enjoy it than to be fighting with people and having issues. So it's definitely good.
It helps that I give them wine.
Keep them drunk and happy.
Yeah, that's their gift.
Nice.
All right, guys. Thanks for watching. Thanks you, Tony, for coming on. Thank you, Brian, for being my co-host. And
No problem.
Yeah, thanks for the invite, guys.
of course.
Definitely. Have a good night.
All right, have a good night.